Welcome back, everyone. We're going to take a few more minutes to let everyone get settled in, and then we'll get started. We are in the final stretch right now, guys. I think we've got this session, and we're going to do a little bit of breakout if you want to at the end of this, and then we are going to call it a wrap on the After School Summit. So, thank you everyone for attending. Let me just get started by saying I presented at a fireside chat at the beginning of my tenure here that we had a 100-day plan of what SDAN is going to look for. But before we get started on what that means, I want to just talk to you and remind you about that Mise by Mott application. So the Mise by Mott application really is an opportunity, an app, a website for you and your team to have programming that is dynamic. You have program at the access of your fingertips. You are able to collaborate on how that looks. You can even evaluate what that means. And so that is a great opportunity. It's a tool. The Mott Foundation is a huge supporter of the 50-state network. They're really the largest funder that really gets behind after school in a 50-state network for everyone. And so this is a great opportunity and a tool that they put forward that is absolutely free for you and your team. I highly suggest looking into it, and we can have some breakout sessions later about what that is. Think, make, and create trailers. By raise a hand and a reaction, how many have used them so far? We have 3 trailers, one on the east side of the state, one on the west side of the state, and one right in the central part of the state. Our job is to take these trailers in a partnership with 4-H Extension and the network. Christine honestly has done a phenomenal job of implementing high quality programming and activities that are kind of tub-based, which is really awesome. Jeff is joining the team to really kind of move us forward and how that works. Let me just explain a little bit more about the Think, Make, and Create. So when you reserve a trailer, you'll get it for a month. Jeff will come out to you, help you, drop off the trailer, let you learn about what's inside, talk about this. He'll work with your team for a day and a half, whatever you guys need to really get those activities and you to feel comfortable with what that is. And at the end, when he comes back, he's going to sit down with you for 30 minutes and say, what went well, what didn't go well. Those are just important pieces. How many kids did you serve through that time that you were able to use that? We're going to be incorporating entrepreneurship into what this looks like. We're going to do career readiness into what these programs are. So we are going to be making sure that the Million Girls Moonshot and really pushing girls in STEM coming out of this. On top of that, we are working with the Discovery Center and incorporating things like the Lakota Stargazing program and curriculum and expanding that to all the trailers. So all of these different pieces are coming together to be able for you to utilize absolutely free. And we will continue doing this as long as we can possibly do it. So we need your help. We need the data behind it. We need you to use the activities. We need to tell us how many kids you're doing, what works and what doesn't work, and let us know how that can be more helpful. I also want to remind you, we talked a lot about that Power of Us workforce survey. If you go to the exhibitor page, you can do that. You can use your camera and kind of get that QR code up right now. The Power of Us is really an important piece. The more information, the more data we collect from South Dakota, the more we can know about where things are. We want people who are currently working in the field. We want people who have worked in the field in the last 5 years. So maybe you've left, or maybe you know someone who's left, but we can still gather that information. They're going to ask you questions about how much you make. This is all anonymous, right? But we need to get a good gauge. We know that you are underpaid and you do a lot more than what is expected of you. And you do that out of the kindness of your heart, but we want to know where we're at, right? We also want to know about your volunteers. If you have volunteers we want them to fill out the survey. So it's really, really, really an important piece as we move forward. Again, that's in the exhibitor page. You can also just take a quick screenshot of what that looks like. These are our 5 steps: defining measurable achievement goals, telling the after school story of South Dakota, build some advocacy strategies, develop an after school professional, and then capacity building, right? This is what we set in motion. And let's start breaking down what that's looked like. Well, how do we define measure and achievable goals? We have to figure out what the needs are. We have how we're going to address those needs, how the South Dakota After School Network can address those needs, and how we can support you in the best we can. And then we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna measure that success or failure. Phase one of that was our listening sessions. So we did 6 listening sessions all across the state. Roughly about 80 to 100 people came and shared your knowledge. And it was so important. Phase 2 was expanding the after school network staff, right? We had to figure out how this can't be a one-person show anymore, right? The after school network has been around for a long time. Carla did a phenomenal job of getting us to this place. And now it's moving forward. So we've hired a director of operations, Billy Joe. We've hired a director of programs, Jeff. We've hired a director of marketing, engagement, Lisa, who will start sometime this month, later this month. I know the date. I didn't mean to make it sound like we don't know. We know she's going to be starting later this month with us. We're going to be adding more to the team by the summer. That is an important piece because we have to be able to reach you guys in this. Phase 3, working on strategy work. We have to plan. We have strategy sessions set for the beginning of April. I'm going to tell you, in all fairness and honesty and full disclosure, that after the summit, we'll start posting the wrap up of what that means, but probably for the rest of the month until April 20th, SDAN is going to be pretty quiet. And it's not because we're not wanting to help or reach out or do that. We are just getting our ducks in a row. We're going to work together on what this 3-year strategy plan is going to look like. We're going to be presenting that to our leadership team and then getting it out to you guys of how to best serve you. So expect to hear from us, not in a large venue, but expect to hear from us from individual contacts. And then phase 4 is that evaluation. You're going to tell us how we're doing and how we can serve you better and how we can serve kids and families and after school programs better. We're going to tell that story. Lisa's coming in as a marketing engagement person because we need to tell the after school story. You guys are all doing such a great job. And in all fairness, you don't have time to toot your own horns or tell your own story or tell the stories of the kids. But let me tell you, the work you're doing is absolutely remarkable. You are making impacts every single day. You showed up in this pandemic above and beyond what was expected. Jody talked about it today. You put after school on the map, especially in South Dakota, right? We want to tell your story. We want to tell the impact of what you do. So we're going to connect with you. We're going to be working on some video work in the summer. We're going to be listing out a podcast this fall. I originally thought it was going to be February, but we got a lot going on right now, right? We're going to create an annual State of the After School report in September. Why September? Because we're going to be using that along with our advocacy strategies. Also, have you checked out our map? It's really expanded, and I can talk a little bit about what that means. We've expanded the map to not just include county data, but also to include legislative district. Of course, all the legislative districts are changing and will change after the session. They've kind of already moved in that direction, but we'll get that updated, right? We'll get that updated this summer. We'll provide a toolkit for you to share your after school story this fall, November, right? After election, every 2 years, everyone gets reelected in South Dakota. That is an opportunity for you to connect. Advocacy isn't always sitting and meeting and going to a senator's office or going to peer. Sometimes advocacy is just inviting your local representative or your local senator to come to your program. That's it. Who knows better about your program than you and your kids that you serve and your families? invite them in, bring that. We'll give you some tools into what that looks like. We did provide some training for Day at the Capitol. We did an fireside chat on January 12th, and then we had Day at the Capitol with Sodex Eka. That was an amazing event. And for the first time, we held a legislative reception the night before. Tons of legislators came to listen and have conversations with one-on-one with you as professionals in the field. Youth professionals were there to share their story. We will be branding a champion and ambassador program, meaning we want champions. We want legislative champions. We're going to say this senator and this representative really believes in after school, and they're willing to say it, right? They're willing to put a little sticker or wear a pin. But we also need you to be ambassadors. We need youth ambassadors to be able to share that, get a little training, and kind of get that confidence to be able to sit in front of those senators and representatives and do those things. With Terry Peterson, the godfather of after school. Remember, he was one of the key factors, the key people who really made an impact. I think I'm kind of freezing up a little bit, so I'm gonna give it just a second. Terry Peterson, Dr. Peterson, was someone who really made an impact into getting 21st century dollars. We had a December fireside chat where Secretary Sanderson, so Secretary Tiffany Sanderson, the Department of Ed Secretary for South Dakota, came and spoke to you directly. And then we had youth come on and talk about their experiences. So great. Advocacy in January, Day of the Capitol in February. We had a Jedi training, so adding justice into that DE&I piece and really looking at it from a different lens. Sometimes those conversations are tough to have, but it was really great. Here we are, we're at the After School Summit. And then we're gonna have that quiet period, right? April 20th, we'll be back with a fireside chat where you can meet all of the team and get to know everyone just a little bit better and how we can connect to you. We're going to develop an after school professional leadership academy, right? How amazing would it be to have a cohort of 10 to 15 people that come in and learn outside of what you're doing, how to be better leaders in the after school space directly, right? I think that is something that's so valuable and so needed. We're going to create some data collection capacity. Everything we do needs to be data driven, right? We know when we talk to key decision makers, there's kind of two approaches, and we need both of them. We need the approach of data to say, here's the numbers, here's your return on investment. Then we also need those personal stories that really drives the heartstrings and really says, this is the impact that we're doing. We want to provide a training to LEAs. We know, and what I mean by LEAs are essentially school districts, right? There's a lot of school districts who are getting a lot of funds available through COVID relief dollars. And some of them are starting their own after school programs or even just dipping their toe in. Maybe they're running some tutoring programs and whatnot. And we want to be able to provide as experts and bring some of you in to help make those connections. We're going to help build out a virtual training library. Eventually, we're going to expand the TMC mobile programming. We're going to have this conference as an annual winter conference if this works, right? We've kind of asked you some of those questions, but we're going to make sure that this is really the right space and the right place for you. We also want to create a mentor program. When we think of mentors, we often think people who are more experienced, right? I'm not going to say old because that wasn't the right word to say. But we often think of people who had a lot of experience. I also want to challenge you and say, you need those people to help guide you. And they have to be outside of your space, right? Those are people that need to be really critical and give you a different viewpoint. But also think of younger mentors. People who will challenge you in a new way, who will bring you new ideas and fresh tactics on how to make you a better youth professional. And we're going to have a better access. If we do all these things, we will have a better access for After School for All. So here's what we learned in our listening sessions, right? One, we made it. Technology has added more. Outside collaborations are better. We've had bigger reach, and some of you have revamped some stagnant programmings, right? Some opportunities and failures. We lost connection. When we went virtual with everything, we lost all of the connection pieces. Not all of them, but we lost a big part of the connection piece, right? Fatigue, Zoom fatigue, if you want to call it, virtual fatigue is a real thing. We have to figure out how we're going to do that. We also have to deal with staffing crisis. We have to keep staff motivated and not burn out. It's hard. It is so very hard for someone to stay that's overwhelmed and stressed. This is an emotional job, right? This took an emotional toll on youth and staff. We lost some great staff, but we have to figure out how we're going to overcome what that looks like. We can't pay $25 an hour to every part-time person. I wish we could, right? You're certainly worth it. We got to figure out how we're going to do that. We did learn that after school, one space. The number one question we talked about, we gave you a survey to fill out about your connection with your school district. And here's what we learned. We learned that one, school districts really favor after school. They show value and do a lot of referrals. That was the highest regarded thing. After school districts give you referrals into your after school program. So they have value. But the one disconnect we don't have is we don't ever feel like we get a space in partnership with that school district. We've got to work on those connections. The last thing is moving the conversation. We definitely moved the conversation from babysitting, right, to after school. I don't think there's probably still a handful of people that feel that way, but for the majority of folks, we have moved past that piece. But now it's time to move on to helping school districts, helping the community, helping key decision makers realize that after school is a part of the educational process. I love this data. I love this data because it gave me more than what I thought, right? I know that if a kid goes to after school, I would assume they're going to have improved attendance, and I assume they're going to have better school grades and better test scores. True, all true. The one thing I didn't think is positive social behaviors and reduction in problem behaviors are much higher if kids come to after school. This one is even mind-blowing. High income kids who come from higher incomes, who go to after school, slightly come up, but they're still good, right? We know they have better access. We know kids from middle incomes also have better access, but have an improvement, right? Kids coming from low income families that are in after school have a huge difference, right? They didn't just jump a little. They overpassed and outperformed high and middle income students. That's phenomenal, right? And this is a longitudinal study. So this is a study that has been done for the same people for years and years and years that have tracked them throughout this time. Those are huge. I want to revisit what this means. We are going to define measurable, achievable goals with your help. We're going to tell your after-school story. We're going to do that through visual. We're going to do that through some podcast stuff. We're going to do that through some print. We're going to do it in some billboards. We're going to really make some big splashes into what that looks like, but it's going to be your story and your kid's story. We're going to build some advocacy strategies across the state. So we're going to be ready to go next session to say, hey, here we are. Here's the pipeline. This is how you communicate to legislators. And we're going to put and train youth to carry on those conversations. Develop that after school professional academy. I promise you, we're going to do this. This is our moon opportunity, right? This is the shoot the moon opportunity of, I can't tell you exactly how it's going to happen. We have some ideas on how the partners that we're going to be working with and how to do this, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner than you realize. And then we're going to expand that data collection piece. I want to hit one more thing, and I think Billy Joe is going to put this in the chat box. We do have the survey, right? We need your input. It is really, really, really important that we get input back from you. Feedback is a gift. I know that sounds shocking. Sometimes it makes us nervous. Sometimes it makes us defensive, but we really need to hear from you, the good and the opportunities. Here's a way to connect. You can call or text. There's the office line, email. Here's our website. This is our address. I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute and say, how are you guys feeling? How are we doing? Where do you want the after school network to go? Where do you want to take us? And I'm going to sit here in silence until people talk, because I want to hear from you, right? This is your opportunity to say, I loved this, or I really want you to do this. We're going to get into what that looks like in just a minute with some breakout sessions. I would love to call on some of our leadership team members and board members to talk about what their vision is. Join me in this conversation real quick.
This is Billy Joe, and let me tell you that I think your youth at Boys and Girls Club that asked Senator Thune to listen, I think that's a good lesson for all of us. We all need to come around the table and we need to listen before we talk.
Thank you, Billy.
This is Desi, and I think I really like the mentor idea. I think that's going to be I think we can all utilize a shoulder for our successes as well as for our failures. And I think having somebody who's been through those steps is going to be really, really helpful. So, right, okay, we didn't plan that, but Riley and I said it at the same time. So,
yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
And I'm just going to expand a little bit here, Billy. I really love the 5-step. It's a template, and that's more than we've had for such a long time. It's a visual that I think is really helpful for learning styles across the board. And I know for me, and the colors, so everything that you've done in that little 5-step process is just really, it's exciting, number one. Now, all the details, that freaks me out a little bit, but I know that you're the guy for it, so.
I appreciate that. Mentoring is a big thing. I see that coming through the chat. What other ideas do you guys have? What are we missing? What have we not talked about? I hope I didn't freeze up too much on everyone today.
I've taken a couple calls this week. I think we really need to address those OST deserts across the state. No matter how small the community is, those kids need us.
Let me also make a real quick plug. We have a partnership with Helpline 211, a 211 helpline, and they're going to be reaching out to you guys to update your information on our website. So it's really, really important that we get the most accurate information. And then that mapping really helps create what that looks like. Riley, can I invite you to join just a conversation? Because I want to clarify a couple of things, or just even come off mute, that would be fine. But you said, how would the after school committee you talked about work? You talking about the mentoring piece, or are you talking about the leadership piece?
I think I was more talking about like the leadership piece. I think you talked about like a committee of like 10 to 15 people. Is that going to be like people from different organizations coming in to like be in discussion with you guys, or is it more like just your team that's going to be part of that committee?
No, this is the field. This is you guys coming in and saying, we're here to learn. Think of it as like Leadership South Dakota, right? Most people can probably relate to that, but something that's specific just for after school people, right? What does that look like? So we're building those partnerships right now to try to work through what that collaboration could look like. And I think you're going to be really excited for the people who can go through those in the next 2 to 3 years. So.
Okay, thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, I'm excited.
Good. Sue, thank you. Yeah, thank you for your comment about the aspects of after school being part of the effort, right? All of these things come together. Thanks, Billy Joe, for pointing out the save the dates for the leadership retreat for SODEXACA. If you fill out the survey, we're picking a winner. We're going to randomly pick someone who's filled out the survey and pay for you to go to that. We'll pay for your fee to go to the conference or to the leadership retreat, which is in April. Okay. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, but we are going to give you an opportunity right now, though, to really self-choose some breakout sessions of what you. So yesterday we did a poll about some topics that you want to talk about, and you can go in and out. These are just things that you can go in and out to have some of the conversations. And then we're going to, as leadership team and people from SDAN are going to kind of come in and just help listen a little bit. So we're going to try to spread out into what that looks like. But we're going to create some breakout sessions where you guys can just go. And this is how we are going to end the conference. We're going to end with some networking opportunities. I'm going to say one more time to Billy, Joe, or Jeff, is there anything I'm missing before we really send people out? Okay. I just want to make sure because I usually forget things like that. Any chance of grad credit leadership? Thank you, Laura. That's a good point. Let's think about that. Grad credit. Yep.
Laura, I'm feeling like this year there will not be grad credit just based on numbers, but we will have that credit in the fall when our numbers are larger.
Awesome. Any other questions before we try to break out into these sessions? Again, these are self-chosen. You get to choose which breakout session you're going to go to. You're going to have the conversations. We'll help if we need to provoke some questions into what that looks like. We'll help do that. But I'm going to have Tavia break out those rooms so you guys to choose which ones you would like to go to.
Billy, did I miss the memo of where I'm going?
Not yet. Look for your text real quick.
Perfect.
So staffing, professional development, relationships to schools, SEL, STEM programming, self-care. We also just have an open room. If you go to the breakout room, it should pop up. You can just hit join and join those out, okay? Everyone, welcome back. You have the rest of the day to enjoy. So thank you all for coming. We greatly, greatly appreciate you lending your support, lending your ears, and thank you for coming. We feel like this was a great opportunity. Make sure you fill out that survey, and we'll email it out to all the participants as well. So don't worry about it if you didn't grab it. You'll get that in the next day, and otherwise enjoy your day. Have an awesome day.